Middle Way Philosophy, Introductory Video, 6E, Temporary and Long-Term Integration, Jhana and Development, by Robert M. Ellis. This is a tributary video to video number 6 on integration. As discussed in that video and illustrated by the two mules story, integration involves the overcoming of conflict, the unification of energies that were previously opposed to each other, the uniting of meaning, and the reframing of beliefs. However, there are ways in which some aspects of that integration may be gained temporarily in advance of the rest. Ways in which integration of desire, that is the unification of our energies, may be temporarily boosted, in which our sense of meaningfulness may again be temporarily boosted, even though in the longer term our beliefs have not yet been integrated, as fully shown in the two mules story. In this kind of temporary integration, as we'll call it, there is a temporary relaxation of the barriers through a relaxation of the body and mind, so that the barriers that prevent one set of energies from meeting with another and uniting with another are temporarily removed. The synaptic channels are temporarily opened when they're normally closed because of the changed state of the mind and the body. Such a state is often associated with meditation, but not exclusively. It can be marked by positive emotion, bliss, inspiration, sustained attention, and openness. This kind of state is especially well explained in the Buddhist tradition, where it's understood in the context of the achievements of meditation. When one reaches an absorbed meditative state, this is known as jhana. So jhana is a word really for a temporary state of integration of this kind. In Buddhism, this is seen as a helpful achievement, but not a final achievement. Jhana should not be confused with nirvana or enlightenment as any kind of final state. It's a temporary state, dependent on the meditative effort you've put in at that moment. In other traditions other than Buddhism, jhana may be associated with an inspired state, or it may be associated with an experience of God, or an experience of oneness. Jhana can be associated with the insights and inspirations of artists and also of religious writers and mystics. However, it's very important not to pin metaphysical labels onto the experience of temporary integration. It's just an experience. It's a very meaningful experience. It's an experience which may be helpful to you in many ways. However, it doesn't justify you in pinning onto it certain kinds of beliefs which you justify because of that experience. The experience may, in your terms, be an experience of God. It may mean God to you. It may be associated with archetypal experiences of God. But it's a further step to then attribute absolute beliefs about God and justify them through that experience. Temporary integration needs to be recognized as just that, temporary. It's temporary because it's dependent on certain conditions being applicable, which will change fairly rapidly. They're basically the conditions of your degree of relaxation and your degree of focus at that moment. That's dependent on the state of your body, and the state of your body is likely to change with your changing needs. That state will end, but it may well leave after effects, very positive after effects in many instances. Those after effects will only gradually fade. Nevertheless, those are also temporary. Temporary integration can be especially helpful to us if we invest it. To invest it, we need to make use of the temporary boost of energy, the boost of meaningfulness that we may experience in the wake of temporary integration. Investing it means that we relate it to our beliefs and we consider in that way our habitual ways of operating, the assumptions we make in our lives. We can only do that by reflecting, and particularly by allowing a synthetic process to occur which might not otherwise occur without the effect of the temporary integration. A synthetic process means that different ideas are brought together which are normally separate in our ways of thinking. It may be if we can discuss things, or we can study, or perhaps we can read and reflect when we're feeling inspired in the way that temporary integration may leave us with, then we have effectively invested that experience in future development and progression. Long-term integration doesn't just use existing synaptic connections better by flooding them with energy. It creates new synaptic connections. Those long-term connections are not necessarily permanent. They could still be pruned if they're unused. But they do remain there, in most cases, to change our experience in the long term. Long-term integration creates new meaning, which potentially creates new beliefs, which can lead us to act in new ways. This is a key component of provisionality. Provisionality, if you look at the video which is given that title in this series, gives us new opportunities, new possible ways of acting so as to be able to respond more adequately to new situations and new conditions. We can only have provisionality from the capability of new beliefs. It's long-term integration which helps to make that possible, or at least which helps us to advance from our previous levels, our previous range of beliefs. So, to summarise, integration overcomes conflict, unifies energies, and helps us access new meaning. This can be done temporarily through relaxation of the barriers between different desires, allowing a feeling of greater energy because the previous energies have been unified more fully. Jhana, inspiration, and religious experience can all be linked to temporary integration. We should avoid metaphysical labels of those experiences. They are experiences. Temporary integration can be invested, though, in longer-term integration. That long-term integration is not absolutely permanent, but it contributes to unifying beliefs by creating new synaptic links. It's thus long-term integration rather than temporary integration which can change our lives for the better in the long term and make us more adequate in our responses to the world around us.